Greetings and welcome. I'm Rebecca Carner, Biofield tuner. Let's just arrive in and sort of acknowledge yourself wherever you are. Let's arrive into this now moment. Thank you for joining me if you're joining me live. And whenever you find this video, as always, it's exactly right on time. Exactly right on time. And with that, I'm just going to lead with one quick. This is 174 hertz. And this is not, I'm not even really starting with a grounding in this moment. It's just a tonal arrival with the forks. All right. Wherever you are, however you feel in this moment, if things are a little clunky or crunky, a little sideways, a little disoriented, a little excited and you don't know why, a little tired, however it is, just be here now with that, with yourself. Excellent. And as is so often prompted, try to connect with your breath. You don't even have to change it. Just realize that you're having it go from autonomic breathing to aware and present breathing, and then find a rhythm and a pace and a width and a breadth and a depth of breath that you find easeful for your body right now. There. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Thank you for joining. Greetings and welcome. I'm going to talk a little bit this morning about differentials and consideration and a contemplation on identity, and identity in private, in the sense of internal awareness and true private intimacy, right? Not identity as external anything, but really identity as defined by how one conceptualizes oneself, even if it's not worded, or it's not like you journaled, I think I'm it might not be that concrete, right? Those sort of amorphous, almost concepts of identity, impressions of identity that we're really connected with internally when we consider who in the world we think we are, right? So these are the concepts today, because this tuning is one in my, what is turning out to be an ongoing series, really, of ways that we embody and land and integrate and metabolize and truly be, not know, not be wise to, not conceptually identify and frame, but the lived beingness and presencing of these energetic awarenesses that we're building over time. I'm going to speak first to differentials. Again, whenever you find this is exactly right on time, and these frequencies will be appropriate to your now moment. That being said, I am filming this in the morning in Atlanta, Georgia, on June 3rd, 2026. Almost unanimously, Everyone that I have spoken to in the last 36 to 40 hours had an experience of some sort of emotional awareness on Monday, June 1st. So for some people with whom I've spoken, it was Sunday, May 31st, but between close of day, May 31st to close of day, June 1st, there hasn't been anybody that I've spoken to that didn't have a moment, be witness to a moment, notice I'm feeling some kind of way and I don't even know what, right? Everybody. I'm not going to claim to know what in the world because I don't, or what in the galaxy, or what in the cosmos, right? I don't. But I'm noticing what's coming up. And one of my teachers, David Clements, does a really beautiful description of when we embody my language, more coherency, his language, more light, that what isn't light, right, that what isn't coherent comes up as a differential. Heather Ashamara describes it as the mud effect, right? When you pour in crystal clear water into a sludgy something, then all of a sudden it's like, yes, the water is coming up. Yes, the vessel is becoming filled with the clear water, but what presents at the top isn't the clear water, right? It's the dredge from the bottom that gets pushed up, sort of like being from Louisiana and knowing people growing up who were in the offshore oil industry. There was such a thing as a mud engineer, right? And you would send down different grades of mud, in this case, instead of clear water, to push up the rock that they were drilling deep under the ocean floor, right? Because you needed something. And so if you take that whole engineering feat and apply it to clear water, then pushing up the mud instead of mud pushing up the rock, that is what happens when one evolves, when one brings more clarity, more awareness, more presence into one's life, whether you are changing jobs or sort of scrubbing over and improving the quality of your relationships with yourself or with others around you, whether you're moving home, right? One of my kids taught me the phrase glow up, right? Yeah. So when you're going through a glow up, you think, oh, everything should just be shiny or new. But in the initial pass of any glow up, what comes up is the gunkety gunk. It's not the bring finished product. And so I'm describing this in this video as a differential. In my humble opinion, there was some sort of mass differential that happened on, in effect, Monday, June 1st. One of my dear, and highly esteemed in my heart colleagues sent me a message when I checked in with her yesterday and said, wow, was yesterday some kind of something for you? And she reported back, yes, indeed it was. And it felt like what was coming up was old and things that I hadn't felt or sort of been in a long time. And there was no concrete prompt. There was no prelude that said, oh, and you're about to go back in the Wayback Machine and dredge up stuff from ye olde childhood. No, it's not that. It's like all of a sudden you're kind of trucking along through your moment and it's like you are just in an atmosphere, just saturated like mist with all of this stuff. And there was no like, you're about to hit a pocket of stuff. No. And same. That was really my experience, I had many, many people report in their own framing similar things. So sometimes you can think, oh, I'm going to change jobs. So you get the prelude. Oh, I'm going to go through a differential. I'm going to have to learn a new office culture, and my cubicle mates are going to be different, and their little idiosyncrasies are going to be noticed by me in different ways. You know that a differential is coming, but sometimes in this work, and then because we are both micro expressions of the organizing intelligence, but as a humanity and as a global population, we are also a macro undulating experience of that. When we go through these moments of both micro and macro differential, sometimes stuff be coming up and you don't get the inner office memo. It's not calendared on your iCal. Let's just breathe into sort of having that described, right? So that, because I know many people who watch my stuff, and I would say, I guess probably everybody, just about everybody who watches these videos will know as of what I am saying. But some people who may find this down the line, some people along the way who may be tuning in, this might be the first time that this was really codified and put into words. And because ever more so, as a macro expression, as a humanity, as a peoples, we will be engaging in earnest and knowingly with the very true and very real qualities of that which is as of yet largely still invisible. So these differentials, to be able to speak of them, identify them, and validate, right, ratify that this is a thing, is super important. Particularly when you get sort of medicine balled by one that you didn't get a memo on, that you didn't engage with thinking, oh, I'm going to hit some integration patch. And you're having an experience that has completely taken you over. Completely taken you over. Like one of those sluicing mud splashes that an 18-wheeler does, and it just completely overtakes your windshield and you didn't see it coming. To have these things identified is so helpful, because in that moment when you're blind and fully in it, to know that this is even a thing, rather than just to think, oh my God, I've lost the plot, I'm lost, I'm spiraling, that's it. No, that isn't it. I'm spiraling. Oh, I'm in one of those things. Yes. All right. So that is a differential. Sometimes we know they're coming. Sometimes we just find ourselves completely spun in the middle of it, and we didn't even get a memo. Really well done. Okay. The second word in the title of this is identities. And again, as each, the one of us, and then as the all of us, the we of us, continue to move forward through this progression, part of what these differentials are, quote, bringing up is what I'm going to define in this video as an identity. Now, I want to tread very, very, very gently, right? With so much care, like, like the white glove service on having your furniture delivered or whatever, right? It is with reverence of white glovedness that I'm going to craft the field of what I'm identifying as identity. Because the identities that we are being prompted to release, I don't want to say let go of, because that can invoke the sort of grabby clinginess. If you say, I have to let go of something, right? People, that's such a thing. Push me, pull me. But if something like a feather falling off of a flying bird, right? The bird isn't going to crash. Like when I find the gorgeous hawk and owl feathers out in my yard, the blue jay feathers, the bird didn't crash because a feather came off, right? The feather was released from the entire system, often, I think, in flight, because that was 100% appropriate, organic, systemically, organizedly perfect, orchestrated, planned by the body, right? The releasing of a fruit. If a Georgia peach tree kept all of its peaches and never released them because of the appropriateness of that, the tree would become sick and die. So we are in this time right now, of all these differentials that we're experiencing. I'm right there with you. They are bringing up these identities. Now, some identities are things that we, quote, want to release. Hurt feelings, relationships, be they with other people or be they our own relationship with, food or consumerism or media or whatever, right? These are all relationships, right? They're all the spaces in between, how we relate to a thing. Some of the identities, if you know that you have been relating to something or someone or some concept like work or family obligation, if you have been relating to those in ways that you have identified and assessed aren't beneficial to you, you might be looking forward to releasing that tether, that vector, that movement in yourself to keep creating that exchange. Yeah, I'm ready to release that. Boom. Yes. Now, even if one is ready to, there is often support and surround sound, waves of grief, ways of kind of weird clinginess that will come up. This is all true. I also very delicately want to talk about this other function of identity that might be really hard to even fully realize that I need to release it and that it's safe to release it, or that I actually even want to release it. And those are the identities that are precious to us. For instance, many of the beautiful souls with whom I interact have overcome unimaginable hardship, almost unimaginable abuse and treachery and betrayal and abandonment. And so one of our identities can be that we have to let go of the usness that we know that I overcame that. But you think, but that's a good quality about mine. Like, I'm proud of that. And yes, I know I am of those elements in mine own self. And yet, to cling to those identities also puts a fence line on one's creative potential, on one's light expressive voltage potential, because if you think I overcame this shadow thing that somebody else in their shadow expression blapped onto me, then you're still staying tethered to that. And I'm not blaming the victim, and I'm not saying that you are responsible for someone else's shadow movements. No, 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 no. But in one's own adherence to that quality in their own identity, because that really wasn't them. That was just their light continuing to shine that then led them away from the victim repercussions of somebody else's shadow expression, right? And so it's like, keep going. And so to go long on that, you even have to let go of that, right? And so these are incredibly precious identities that we worked so hard to get, to earn. And it's like, you want me to let go of that? But I think that's what time it is, friends. Like, Rebecca doesn't want you to do that. I'm struggling with mine own letting go of some of these incredibly hard and long fought earnings of my own, right? Let's put some sound on that. I certainly am. And then lastly, and then I really will just get into sound and tuning, the other identity that was really presenting itself to be put into this collective field was the identity, the little micro identities that we cling to with more adamance than I think many of us even realize, are the little identities that we call personality traits. Like, Rebecca can be really funny, right? Whew, and I can be quick. Sometimes I can be a little snarky. Like, I grew up in a tradition that I could have a bit of a sharp tongue. I can have a bit of a sassy tongue. I can have an ironic and a sarcastic tongue. I'm quick, I'm funny, right? And none of that is Rebecca. None of that is Rebecca. I'm very identified with my work ethic, with my integrity, with my honesty, with my committedness and sort of earnestness, right? These are all identities, but I think, oh, they're virtuous personality traits. That's why people like me. That's why people come and trust their most intimate pain bodies, year upon year upon year. That's why they bring them to me for safekeeping while we work with them. How honoring is that? And all of them aren't in the end Rebecca's pure light. So it's not as if I'm going to, quote, release these identities as if I will suddenly become an unintegral liar, yuckity yuck person. I don't mean it that, but I mean my own internal clinging and association with that will soften and loosen so that more of my light in ways that I cannot conceive can shine through. And that is for each of the one of us. There is so much heat coming up. I'm tuning from here. Rebecca's getting out of the way. I love you all. I'll see you on the other side of this sound. I am giving way. May I be a channel for how everybody who watches this receives their exactly perfect increment and activation and clarification. Mm. Kruaranawata. Ala. Guru. Korosko onyot ot ot. Oh no, yo yo no yo. Ura, unewa. Sinoro olokoni. Kurutini, kurutini. Alawao tanao. Puranam, Puranam, Puranam. In her June video, Martha Alter Hines did this really interesting description of feeling. I think the way she described it was maybe as if she had been following a certain trajectory. And she said, I feel as if I've, quote, been, I think she said, lifted up into the air and basically pulled back. And she said, and not yet, not yet, but soon it's as if then when I am reoriented, that I will be being placed and then vectored in a different directional. And that's really interesting. I hadn't felt it, but the minute she described it, again, my personal sensation around that hadn't reached that understanding, but yet in my system, I wouldn't have described my lived experience quite like that. But the minute she said it felt appropriate. It was as if I was as if I was still busy just feeling, wow, I'm being yeeted out of what I thought I was doing and nothing feels right. But I didn't realize that I was in fact being reoriented. And one of the modern day turns of phrases that is becoming overplayed in my opinion, except the first time I heard it, I really liked it, was this idea of a pivot, right? Instead of just a turn or one has to change. I don't know, that seems a lot. Whereas the thought of, oh, I'm let me do this and I'm realizing I need to pivot. then I can do this. But the way I really appreciate how Martha, yes, described it is that in that way, it isn't a pivot because, like some of those IQ tests, it's can you encircle all of the geometric forms without crossing any of them and without picking your pencil up off the page, right? But in this macro what differential, where the needle is not staying on the record, my friends, right? We are picking our pencil, the pencils that are us, pencils are us, the pencils that are us are being picked up off the page. And then are we going back on the same page? Are we going to construction paper? Are we just gonna, I don't know, be drawing on the palette instead of the canvas? I believe it's on a need to know basis. Rebecca Carner doesn't know yet. But that is different, right, than a pivot, right? We're not a compass that stays on a thing. We are differentialing, my friends. Is that a verb? It is today. And how to stay embodied and to realize when the pencil picks up off the page, right, all of those identities are sort of the frictions that led the graphite to make the mark on the old paper. And fair enough, and it was beautiful, yes. We're not going to not make art wherever we're going. We're not going to not be the essential pencil self that we need to be, but we're going to have to let go of all the ways we thought we drew on that craft paper, or on that whatever. Yeah. There we go. All right. Let's all breathe together. How do I do that, right? What do I need to pack in my backpack, in my little pencil backpack when we get lifted off the page, right? No need to pack. No need to pack. When is the pencil going to be lifted? You don't have to worry. Will I still be me? Yes. You can only be more so you, and it will only be more so easeful to be so. The only thing that we experience as pain is our attachment to the friction that we have for generations, and at this point, really thousands of years, as a lived humanity remembrance that we have become conditioned and accustomed to. But it was never appropriate. It was meant to happen. These cycles have form and function and usefulness, but it was never the whole truth. It was never all that love can be. It was true. It did happen. We all felt it. We all became acclimated and accustomed and conditioned to it. And in so doing, we have now perpetuated even more of that painful, dense, slow-moving friction. But it is no longer necessary. It was necessary for a time. Just like the shell must necessarily break for the chick to arrive. But the existence of the chick in the shell was never meant to be the full life. And this was never our full. What we have known till now was never the whole show. It was never. The sum total of the possible embodiment of love and truth and light. That we are engineered to be conduits for. Aho, Ashe. And so it is. Amen. The paradoxical embodiment, right? To truly not even know how to plan the next 3 weeks. I have literally sat down at times in my life and planned the next year of my life, like professionally, right? Set up goals and workshops and right? So one can truly be at a loss on how to map out the next 3 linear weeks of one's life and still be in full assured faith and trust that everything will fall into place exactly right. Right? That is the truth. To truly not know on approach how one is going to engage in relating to someone or some event or some circumstance or some place, but know on approach that with full presence, you will show up and be guided and be in lived unfurling wisdom in that relational field without having planned what that looks like. That lived paradox will become more and more and more and more and more and more true. To be courageous enough to truly identify deep inside of you a desire or a need or a want, and to have no idea how to provide it for yourself, but to be 100% in the knowing that you will, or that the universe will be in full measure providing of that. These embodied movements, these embodied pulsating rhythmic presencing of that. Because I mean, that's the other thing, friends. Like, you know, this shit is not going to roll out by Q4 as pre-programmed, and it's not going to roll like that. But the cyclical rhythm, just like if you watch a time lapse flower even ones, even not like 4 o'clocks that truly do open and close, but like all flowers that are in bloom will sort of pulse as day and in their own circadian rhythm of a day, right? And we're not governing that, right? And we are that, right? So yeah, that that. Yeah, really good work. All right, I am going to drop that into ground. Almost like a sonic balm. I'm actually going to grab another tool and I'm going to close out the field today. Right, like on the super, super, super duper micro, right? Often doctors and various MDs talk about mitochondrial function, right? The cell wall and the appropriate mitochondrial structure, and then the functioning. If a cell can't relieve itself of any byproduct and then absorb appropriately raw materials for whatever its function is, then the cell mutates in a way that is no bueno. So on this collective field, right, I'm doing a sonic mitochondrial toning. Yes. Yes. Thank you, friends. Really, really good work. As always, I mean, I this isn't a turn of phrase, and I'm not saying this for the camera. Like, it is an honor and a joy to be here with you. Thank you for joining me. RebeccaCarner.com. If you need personal help with whatever your differential looks like, literally, that's why I'm here. That is why I'm here. If you just need to connect with someone and be like, am I crazy? I'll shoot you an email back. No, friend, you're not. Welcome. We're all here. We're all here. You are in beautiful company. It is such a delight to be here. I love you. I love you. I love you. Care for self. Breathe and drink water. And I'd love for people to feel better because they feel better inside, right? Let's start here, and then it can't help but go out. All right, to the differentials. I'll see you next time. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Super Steven. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your presence. All right, until the next time.